Thank you, Madam President, and thank you to all of the co-sponsors on this bill. So we know that Denver is facing a housing emergency. This council has supported the emergency efforts of the mayor's House 1,000 initiative to help get unhoused folks into shelter or hopefully housing. And those same emergency efforts will only work to reduce homelessness over the long term if we work at the same time to stem the tide of Denverites falling into homelessness in the first place. My colleague has given some of the statistics from this year. We are on pace for over 12,000 eviction filings in 2023, which would be a record number. And that quite genuinely keeps me up at night. I want to make a few things clear about this amendment. First, we know without question that these funds will be needed and that what we are facing is an emergency. Denver has already exhausted its 2023 funding due to increasing demand from people facing non-payment of rent evictions. And in 2024, advocates who distribute these funds predict that $30.1 million, what we're aiming for total tonight, will prevent only about half of evictions for inability to pay rent. We also know that evictions are a deeply harmful, expensive, destabilizing experience for families, especially for children, with a cascade of negative consequences as people have to scramble to find new housing, pay new security deposits, switch schools, figure out how to get to work from a new location, adjust to a different neighborhood, or in a worst case scenario, survive for a period of time with no stable housing at all. The most fundamental needs of our residents demand that we correctly prioritize our city resources. So second, I want to respond to a conversation about whether we should hold off on amending the budget at all right now or amend it at a substantially smaller amount, then wait until the funds budgeted by the mayor run out sometime midway through 2024 and hope that we are able to amend the budget to provide more rental assistance at that time. We are charged right now with doing our best to pass an accurate and complete budget for 2024. That's the purpose of the exercise. We know what will be needed for rental assistance right now, and we need to ensure, not hope, that our city's 2024 budget will include funds for this urgent need. The longer we wait, the more of the 2024 budget will be spent down before we discuss the topic again. And I want to emphasize that once we pass an amendment budgeting funds for this purpose, the mayor is free to adjust expenditures elsewhere if he prefers not to use emergency reserves. Whereas if we instead fail to set aside those funds now or give the mayor the space to veto our vote, we and the many people facing eviction in our city will be left with no guarantee that money will be available down the line. We will see various emergency needs be pitted against each other because we didn't adequately plan for interlocking emergencies in advance by cutting other less urgent expenditures that do not implicate fundamental human rights. Finally, I want to publicly say what I've said privately to the mayor and his staff. The group of council members behind this amendment, our offices, our staffs, the advocates that we work with day in and day out, are willing and ready to help find ways to balance the city budget going forward. If there is a concern with using a small portion of our emergency reserves for this emergency, let's talk about where we can cut expenditures in other areas instead that are not at a similar level of urgency. I know that we all will be continuing to search for ways to raise to the occasion of these urgent and pressing crises together, and I urge my colleagues to vote yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor.